any other things? Maybe you're in your process, you got something coming up. We'll go over to here. And George, you had a question. What can I do for you, sir?
Yeah. Good morning, Stuart.
Good morning.
Uh, I joined the VCI back in May,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had my appointment with Dr. Swalholm, and I was diagnosed with SSD. And what I wanted to know is, I've had the migraine diagnosis. I'm 10% for tinnitus. Uh, I kind of feel like I'm in limbo right now.
So you're, because I think with your case, if I remember correctly, we had. Thank you, Vinton. Appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you. I like it. You're working at your desk there. So going back to you, George, it sounds like you're asking what's the next step. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah. And you have the migraine diagnosis, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're at 10% for tinnitus, SSD from Swallow. And I remember that was back in the day, and I think we were doing some other paperwork, right? We had talked about that. You had some other stuff going on when we first connected, and that might have been why things slowed down. I'm not sure. But yeah, so with that migraine diagnosis, and you already have tinnitus, easy day getting connected with the med team. Because you can do migraines secondary to tinnitus. We do that a lot, pretty successful, okay? Now that you have the diagnosis for migraines, that's the start. We want to keep reporting it. Now, you can either call your doctor and report it every couple of weeks, or you can download an app. There's a lot of free apps out there. Migraine Buddy is a real common one people like to use because it'll download when you're done documenting your migraines. You can take that download, it sends it to you in an Excel spreadsheet, and it gives you the date, the time, how long the headache or the migraine was. Because again, we're dealing with migraines. If you're suffering with 2 or more per month, all right, that's 50%. It's quite a bit. But going back to what we saw in that little PDF, we got to document it, right? The chronicity. How many times does it happen? Are we keeping track? So the diagnosis is the start, because we always got to have a diagnosis, right? So 3 things: service connection, diagnosis, the life impact. So the service connection here, George, that's going to be your tinnitus. You're going to get a nexus letter to support that. So that nexus letter says your migraines are service connected. Your diagnosis you already have. And that life impact, that's what we're going to report on the DBQ that the med team gives you. How many headaches or migraines are you dealing with? If it's 1 or 2 per month, that's 30%. If it's 2 or more per month, that's 50%. And then we put that in to submit your claim. And then Dr. Swanholm's DBQ for SSD. Let me look into that and see what part of our process, maybe, because back in May, I didn't have any assistance. I was doing this all myself, and let's just see what happened. How we get you through the cracks in that one, George, for sure. Okay.
I appreciate everything there, and this is FYI. After 180 days, your e-benefits password expires.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And also since November, first week of November this year, everybody that uses eBenefits or VA.gov, you'll have to select a security image. So that's pretty new. So maybe you change your password in October, you go to log in anytime after the first week of November, and you're going to have to select a security image. So yeah, let's do this. Trevor, he's got a CMP exam tomorrow. All right. And George, I'll send you a follow-up email. All right. I'm going to come back to that too. But this is a great chance here in our next few minutes. Trevor's got a CMP exam tomorrow. So let's talk about that. Okay. let's see here. Hey, Trevor, did you have a chance to watch the video? Let me pull this one up here.
Which video are you referencing?
I'll get it out to you. That's why I always ask for the time and date of your exam, so I can send you a link for a video tutorial that I give clients. So I'll send that out to you.
Yeah, they actually told me. They told me Friday that I had it, so
Okay.
it was a little last minute.
Not a problem. I'll get it to you as soon as we get off this call. Just going to write it down because I will forget. Let's go over this. We'll start here, though. And right there. Okay. Prepping for your C and P exam. Wow, that's bright. Prepping for the exam. Okay. So this is a document we use, and I can send this to you as well, Trevor. All right. So you're going to the exam not to dispute diagnosis. You're going to the exam because they're disputing or verifying service connection. That's what they're looking for, okay? And then this is the big one here, okay? Whenever we're doing a C&P exam, especially for mental health, sometimes the examiners get a little sneaky, all right? They'll ask a question, and then you get that awkward silence. Listen, let the awkward silence be. Let it just fill the room. It's okay. This is your C&P exam. It's not theirs. Maybe they're a contractor and they're paid for it. That doesn't matter. It's your C&P exam. And the reason we don't want to do long-winded answers. Say we're going for mental health. Let's say it's specifically PTSD, okay? The examiner starts asking questions. Hey, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your family life. Now, those are okay questions, right? Because it establishes some narrative. It lets them kind of get to know who you are. With your mental health assessment, the doctor would have asked those same questions, okay? So, yeah, had a good childhood, whatever, had a decent childhood, parents, brothers, sisters. And this is sometimes what throws veterans off is the examiners continue to ask about your family. Did your parents get divorced? Oh yeah, they got divorced when I was 12. It was really rough. You know, it was a little scary. I was pretty young, didn't know what was going to happen. Well, now you just gave the examiner an opportunity to take away service connection. Okay, and they can say at that point, well, his PTSD is from his parents' divorce when he was younger, when he or she was younger. Okay, I've seen that. I've seen them when veterans, they get married in service, have a divorce after their military service, and the examiner focuses on that and then says, oh, no, your mental health, your PTSD, that's because of your divorce after your military service, okay? So the examiner is not necessarily there to be your friend. So when they ask a question, just answer the question as succinctly as possible, all right? Don't let them go and get you talking and you're just kind of, well, I don't know what the doctor wants me to say. I'll just keep talking. No, just answer the question. So if they say, yeah, tell me, brothers, sisters, tell me about your family. Yep, grew up here, one parent, two parents, brother, sister, dog, goldfish, whatever. And then just leave it at that. And if the exam gets quiet, so be it. This is your exam. It's not for them. This is for you. Okay. You have your DBQ, so you know what your diagnosis is. It'll say on there on page 2, section 2, right? It'll say what the diagnosis is. Always bring a copy of your DBQ. Always have it with you. Not to throw it in the doctor's face, but it shows that you're prepared. And boy, I'm right with my other hand here. Have your DBQ with you. Just like I told Thomas, be polite. You can't seriously, I can't stress that enough. Even if they're rude and they're dismissive, you walk in the door and they're just like rolling their eyes at you. Keep your cool, be polite. Don't play, the expert here. All right. This is what gets guys and gals too. They come in there and they're right off the bat. They're like, listen, this is what I'm dealing with. According to, CFR 38, I should be at, 100%. I have this, this, and this. I'm rated this IDC code, and they start going on. Well, listen, this examiner, they might be contracted to do this. They might not have a lot of experience. If you make them feel stupid, that's never going to help you, right? These are just people. So we're going to be polite. We're going to have a copy of our DBQ. We'll politely offer it. If it comes up in conversation. I have a DBQ here. I've been concerned about my mental health. I've invested in this on my own. If you'd like to see my DBQ, you can look at it here. You can offer it to them. Don't walk in the door saying, hey, I already got my DBQ. Start here, take a look at it. Again, be polite. Let them go through the exam. Have your DBQ with you. You can bring it in. You can take notes. This is your C&P exam. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that. They're kind of nervous going in there, and I understand why, because these exams can be a little intimidating. You can take notes. Absolutely. Take notes in there. So what we're looking for in a C&P exam, for a successful C&P exam, is we get in, and you get in as a veteran, you go through the exam, and you get out of there. And the examiner doesn't seem to be rude. The examiner doesn't seem to be dismissive. And it takes, probably, it should take more than 10 minutes. It should. Some of these exams for mental health, especially, they can take up to an hour. But if you're in and out of there in like 6 or 7 minutes, there's a good chance we're going to have an issue with that, with the results of that exam. Okay. If you're in there and out of there and the examiner was flat out rude, flat out not professional, immediately get back to your car, start taking some notes, just emotionless as best you can, but write down, hey, I showed up to the exam 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early. The examiner was 20 minutes late. The examiner, was rude. They didn't want to see my DBQ. They didn't even ask me about what I'm dealing with. And it seems like they didn't even give me a thorough exam. We can take care of that on the back end. It's called a memorandum for record, an MFR. I've done that a couple times for vets. Going back to the exam, cover these two right now. The C&P examiner is not your advocate. They're not there to debate. They are, if it's a contractor, they're paid to look at your claim. They're going to offer their opinion. It's going to be annotated in your record. That's going to go to the VA rater after the exam. Sometimes they're medical professionals. Sometimes they're, sports medicine professionals. It depends on the C&P exam you're going. Keep it on the issue at hand. All right, that's another one. Some clients have a hard time with that because they've been fighting the VA for so long. And I understand you have all these other issues, but if you're at a C&P exam for mental health, that's not the time to bring up back issues, neck issues. It's not going to help your case. The examiner's not going to listen. All right, they're not going to hear about it. Now, when it comes to the mental health exam, let's go over this one. This is a biggie right here. And in my the first tutorial I give you for the mental health prep, we kind of talk about this, okay? We got to talk about the life impact, right? This one here. How does your mental health impact you today? What are you dealing with today that you didn't before? So if it's a PTSD claim, I'm going to go PTSD combat first. We'll go down the list. If it's PTSD combat, since your experience, since that, and that's called a stressor, since that stressor happened, what's been different for you? Do you deal with anxiety? Do you deal with depression? Did you lose a friend? Did a friend get shot? Did a friend loses his or her life? If that's what you're dealing with, we have to share it, okay? If it's PTSD non-combat, It's probably because of this is a common one, motor vehicle accident. Okay, you had a motor vehicle accident. That's a stressor, right? How does that affect you today? If it's SSD, somatic symptom disorder, you're dealing with existing conditions, disabilities that maybe cause pain, that maybe frustrates you because you can't do what you used to be able to do. That maybe they're even, some of them are embarrassing, right? We gotta share that. That's the life impact. We have to share that with the examiner. That's what they want to know. The two terms you're gonna see on the mental health rating chart, social and occupational impairment. How does your SSD impact your social life? Do you find yourself withdrawing from people? Do you find yourself avoiding friends? Do you even have friends like you used to? Maybe you cut your friends out. That's a symptom. That's a major indicator that you're dealing with some kind of issue. Maybe we're tying SSD to your, I'm going to just use your back. So if it's your back, doesn't matter what it is, but be prepared to share how that disability is impacting you, right? So you're diagnosed with SSD, and the examiner, I've seen this happen, the examiner looks at it and they're like, so tell me how your back causes depression. Some of the examiners don't even know what SSD is, all right? So you might be sharing something new with them for the first time. Like I said before, the VA is probably 10 or 15 years behind mental health professionals today, okay? So how does your back cause depression? Or how does your back disability cause anxiety? And I've shared my example, right? I'm fused in my L4 down to my S1. So I have one giant vertebrae. Obviously, I don't bend too well. I can't bend over that well. Crushed a nerve in my left leg, so I lost some mobility there. How does that affect me? I can't hang out with my family. Like going to theme parks, it's a nightmare, right? 2 hours of walking, and I'm done. I'm toast. Used to never be like that, right? Never had that problem before. So it can be a little depressing not being able to keep up with my family. Sometimes I get a little anxious. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm constantly dealing with these issues of chronic pain because of my back disability. Now, when it comes to SSD, even though in your claim we tied it secondary to one condition, all the physical conditions you deal with have an impact. All right. So even though we tied it to your back, you can, if it's a service-connected disability, that will have an impact on your mental health. Okay. The other thing is when you're sharing about the life impact, you need to give them something that's quantifiable, right? Specific, meaning you just can't say, "Oh, I have back pain, I'm depressed." That's too vague. I have back pain, and my example here, my wife sometimes has to help me get out of bed. That's really depressing, right? Or I'm dealing with plantar fasciitis. So I have a long day of walking. I'm a little depressed because I know the next day I'm going to pay for it in spades. I'm not going to be able to walk when I get out of bed. And then I go to bed that night and I'm anxious. I wake up the next morning, I'm in agony, I'm in pain. It has to be more than, I'm just dealing with chronic pain. All right. But the big one is be relatable. Right here, be relatable. These C&P examiners, they're people, all right, just like you and me, and they're always going to respond better and favorable when you make it relatable, like this example here, right? My wife has to help me get out of bed. I'm just, it's arbitrary, 7 days of the month because of back pain, right? That's something you're going to want to share with the examiner. If, shopping with your wife during Christmas, the stores are swamped. I used to like going out shopping with my wife, taking my wife out, and now I deal with anxiety because it starts to hurt. Whatever we tied it secondary to starts to hurt. I'm dealing with anxiety, and I don't like shopping with my wife anymore. I can't be in crowds. Well, that's called a social impairment. okay? If your job is impacted by your disability, like your, let's say we'll go back to your back. If you have a lumbar condition and it impacts your job, that's absolutely going to cause anxiety. Because if you can't perform at work, there's always a risk of being let go, right? That gives us a form, that can easily give us a type or a form of anxiety. That's what you have to share. The examiner will understand that. They won't understand if you just tell them you're dealing with chronic pain, okay? It's got to be a little more than just chronic pain. But like I said, Trevor, I'll get you that video. I have an actual tutorial where I scripted everything out, so I know, I got everything in there that needs to be said. Be familiar with your DBQ, have a copy with you, politely offer it to the examiner. No matter how the examiner acts, no matter what they say, try to keep your cool, all right? Be polite, keep your professionalism. If it's a bad exam, let me know right away. We'll talk about it. We'll figure out what we need to do. But for the most part, unless the examiner was like overtly rude, it's probably going to be okay. All right. They don't typically hold their cards out for everybody to see when they're going through this process. So when you finish the exam and you're like, man, I don't know what happened. I don't feel like I connected with them. Listen, you might not even be able to connect with them. They're trying to do 50 vets today, so they're just focused on work. So don't let that, influence you. Okay, get through the exam. We're prepping for the next process, which is decision. That's it. Sometimes people get hung up on the exam afterwards, and they're like, I gotta get on the phone. I don't feel good about it. Well, I can't change that. And chances are it probably went okay, unless the examiner started, like I said, being overtly rude, yelling at you, cussing, and that happens. I've seen it happen. Okay, been through this a lot with clients. So we'll get through this exam tomorrow. I'm going to get you that tutorial. I think you're going to be fine. We'll be just good to go. And then let me check the time here. Get rid of this one. All right, so I got a few minutes left. Any last questions before we wrap this up this morning? All right, Vinton, thank you. Vinton, excuse me. We'll see you next year. Have a good week. Have a good Christmas. And let's see, got another question. Yeah, it's probably not a CMP then. They're probably, sounds like just a regular evaluation. Might be your annual, I'm not sure. If it's a CMP exam, they'll always let you know in advance. So it's a good question though. Never miss a CMP exam. All right, if you miss a CMP exam, anything on that claim is denied. They just deny it all, okay? Yeah, so you're going to the mental health side, which is fine. You can still keep getting treatment. You can still keep being seen for it, even if we're filing a disability, okay? Just go back and remember what we talked about in prepping for your mental health assessment. Remember what's on your DBQ, okay? Those things that you deal with and struggle with today, you want to share those at the therapy if you can. I know I'm not saying it's like easy, just walk in there and blurt it out, because you're going to meet new people. These are going to be strangers. I totally get that. So sometimes that can be hard. But if you can start to establish rapport, hopefully you feel comfortable and you can share that, because what you share in those exams, obviously the VA will often look at when you're going through. And I've had that issue before. And it's been wrong. It's been a mistake, because the person you're seeing for treatment or therapy, they're marking off that you're getting better. And that's not always true. So let's pay attention to that. And it's, sharing those same things you shared at the mental health assessment. We got to make sure we're consistent with that here. And the reason I say that is not because we're trying to scam the system. It's because I know what you're dealing with. I understand how hard it is, but I also understand it's even harder to share that. Okay, especially when the VA does group sessions. I don't like group sessions. I'll never do a group session personally. Okay, I always request individual because it's so easy to hear someone else share, and then you kind of feel like, well, I don't know if mine's that bad, right? Or I'm not as bad as that guy or gal, and it kind of changes the whole dynamic for yourself. Okay, so remember what's on your DBQ. You had the mental health assessment, and just share that at the exam. Okay. All right, folks. I got to wrap this up. I got 2 minutes. If you guys have any follow-up stuff, hit me up in an email. Trevor, I'm going to get you an email here shortly. I recorded the last half of this. I'm going to start putting these up on YouTube so you can come back to these later and watch them. And again, thank you all for your time. I'll see you again hopefully Thursday. But again, if you got something in the meantime, drop me an email. We'll get it answered. All right. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good rest of your day and have a great week.